Gali mera gali spera gali nichta, no matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. One of our favourites is back, and we're going to get stuck into a very engaging Arsenal conversation. Let's rock and roll, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Hello. Some of you still on your way home. Some of you preparing to watch the football. Most of you listening on replay. Don't forget that our Spotify and Apple podcasts are back up now. So the audio platforms are rocking and rolling at Squad Central. And back to Squad Central is one of my favorites, Mr. Jordan Jarrett-Bryan.
Bosh. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever in the world you are. How are you?
I am very good. How are you?
I'm good, you know. Life is good, yeah. Could always be better, of course, but I'm practicing gratitude this year. So, I'm good, man. Like, we can't just say we're grateful. We've got gratitude is a thing that you practice, you do, you know, you say it, you experience it, you demonstrate it. And I've got a lot to be grateful for. So I'm very big on that. Ambitious, but more. But yeah, I'm good. I'm happy.
I absolutely love that. Tony, my partner, she's practicing patience.
Okay.
And which has been really interesting. And she's kept to it as well. But gratitude, I think sometimes, I don't know about you, and by the way, squadders, you know how we love to start the show not talking about football. It's like an episode of Seinfeld. It's not about anything. You know, I think social media has made it to a point where people look at what they don't have versus focusing on what they do have. Did work or social media play a part in, you know, you want more, you know, of course we all want more. We want more money, we want more success, we want more. Was that part of it?
No, for many, I think it is, but for me, it wasn't so much that. I think people have always wanted more. I think social media has just amplified how fast and easy people think they can have more. So people have always been ambitious. People always wanted more. But now when you can see on social media that thing that you want, whether it's a car, a fancy restaurant, a holiday, a Birkin bag, a job,
made in China.
Sorry?
Made in China. Sorry.
Well, yeah. Whatever it is, you now just scroll and you see that everyone has got it. So you think, oh, well, the thing that I wanted that I thought might take 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years to get, oh, they've all got it in a day. So I want it in a day. So I think that's how it goes for most people. For me, I just think that maybe it's an age thing. The older you get, you start, you know, experiencing things, you lose people, and then you realize actually, you know, and you meet people that have problems and real big problems and real big issues, and then you look at your life and you think, you know what, there's things I'm not happy with, there's things that I want, there's things that I need to improve on, whether it's health, work, relations, whatever it may be. But actually, I've got quite a lot. And I think it's important that I recognize that, and we all recognize that we all have stuff that, you know, we want to cherish. So just reminding myself of that, in spite of social media and what it portrays and what it shows you. I know in the real world, I've got a home, I've got a warm home, I've got clothes, I've got £2 in my pocket, I've got a great job, I've got great friends, I've got the Arsenal. You know what I mean? Life is good, man. Life is good.
Yeah, that reminds me of growing up as a Gen Xer. I love the film Reality Bites, and there's an Ethan Hawke line where he says, as long as I've got $5 in my pocket and a cup of coffee, I'll be just fine. Talking of squaddies, hello, Magic Mike's in the house from live and direct from his apartment at Highbury. Welcome to you. We got Carol in the house. Good evening, squaddies. PW's joined. Let's see who else is in the house. Kevin's here. We've got, let's see, we'll get some. Karen Russell is here. We've got a few of your some fans of yours as well. We've got, let's see, where is he? Jordan, my guy, Sabelo right there. Jonathan K. London Nomad is a fan of Forever Arsenal as well. So good evening, squaddies. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Speaking of have and have nots, we Arsenal fans might be nice segue, right?
I like what you did there.
I try. I think I was very much like that as a fan, man, why aren't we playing in a semi-final of the Champions League? Look how big this game is. Oh, I'm so thirsty. I want it so bad. Is it ever going to happen again? Are we ever going to win the Premier League again? Are we going to win a European trophy again? And then when we became competitive in the Premier League and almost won it for 2 years, the last two seasons, missed out this season, of course, I got sucked into the journey, and also, Jordan, becoming kind of a little less thirsty and more, wow, I can see it. It's just around the corner, right? Have you felt that way as well as, this whole journey versus destination thing that Mikel told us for quite some time? I've enjoyed the journey, and at some point you want to get off the train, right? And enjoy the destination as well. How's that been for you?
I've enjoyed the journey, Sophie. I really have, because similar to you, I think the older you get, perspective kicks in, right? And you come in the league every single year. I mean, some Arsenal fans would say, once every 20 years would be nice. But these things, can take time. We're under a manager that's been in charge for 5 years. I accept that by, recent standards, 5 years in a job is a long time. But actually, when you're trying to undo what he had to undo and start again, it's not a lot of time. He had to start from scratch. He had to scrap a squad. That took a couple of years. He had to slowly bring in his own players, his own philosophy, style of play. And we've seen the results. We've incrementally got better and better. And my enjoyment of following Arsenal now isn't linked. It's not binary to success. I don't see it as if we don't win, I don't enjoy. I don't have to win the Premier League to enjoy my team. It's the reason why I might have said it on your podcast before, but definitely on Forever. And I get absolutely battered for this, but I don't care. I always say, if you offered me 38 1-0 wins versus play the season out, I'd say no. But I can't. Every week it has to offer me some kind of entertainment, some kind of fun. Football is a process about week in, week out, and enjoyment of goals and comebacks and defeats and defeat again, and then a 5-0 win. You offer me 38 1-0s. That's not fun. You're champions, but that's not fun. So for me,
you said it on here. Yeah, you did.
Was it here?
Yeah,
I did. Yeah, and I got bad for it, but it's how I feel. Winning is great. I want to win like everybody else. I know what it's like to see Arsenal win the title. I've seen it 4 times, 3 Prems. I know what it's like to be champions of England. I know that feeling. But the feeling of the 38 games leading up to that final game is equally important to me. And that's why, for me, as an Arsenal manager, I don't care who you are, prerequisite is good football. You have to play good football. I wouldn't accept Mourinho football, even if it wins. So to answer your question, the journey is fun for me. Look, the way it's ending is not fun. It's frustrating. I'm seeing repetitive mistakes made, and I call them out, and you get frustrated for sure. But under Mikel Arteta, I'm enjoying watching my team again. I've got players in this squad that I like. There was a time when I didn't like a lot of Arsenal players. There was a time when I didn't want to go to the Arsenal. It was like waste of time and money. I gave up my season ticket for it. I gave it up. So I'm paying a lot of money for something that takes up a lot of my time, and it's not enjoyable. I'm enjoying it again. Now, at some point, Arteta has to be accountable. We can't have forever to just keep bringing good time. No, it's got to go somewhere. And if you're not the guy, we need to find somebody else. But at this stage, I'm very much enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the destination because I'm seeing incremental process. And these things aren't easy. It's not easy to win the Premier League. It's not easy to win the Champions League. These things are hard. And final point, but let's not forget, it's his first job. This is still a new manager. He's going to make mistakes. But I see him getting better and better every single year. So destination, at some point, we've got to get there with or without him. But so far, the process and the journey, I'm enjoying much of my team again. I'm enjoying following Arsenal again. And that's something that is just as valuable to me as a title.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to put some comments up for you. JJ says, I'm enjoying the journey. However, I'm getting a bit Bergkamp and a bit BA from, Bergkamp and BA. Is that BA Baracus from A-Team? I want this plane to land and get to the destination, please. Kurt says he's taken a lot of life lessons over this journey in 5 years. Jamie says people will only be miserable if they only think of the destination. Christopher, I just wish the journey involved a couple of trophies. I think Arteta should have nicked at least 1 or 2 domestic cups. 33 fivers, still waiting for my fiver, agrees with you. Jonathan talks about high expectations. And I think before we get to expectations, I want to put Magic's. This week for me was the epitome of what this journey is. I reunited with my son for 20 hours to take him to the semi-final. Game sucked, but we'll always have that. Boy says we're not geared to win anything anyway. We're always left obviously short in various areas. Let's talk about expectation a little bit, because I was doing Sky the other day, and something Rebecca Lowe said on the show a few months ago really stuck with me. She said, expectation kills joy. And I think the Real Madrid game, Jordan, the notion that this Arsenal team that has been depleted this season could absolutely get through a tie against the kings of Europe, especially with those players. I don't need to rattle them off. Everyone knows who they are. Mbappe was supposed to be the missing piece. Carlo Ancelotti, the Don of football, player, he's won everything. Manager, he's won everything. I think there was this fearlessness of we've got nothing to lose. And we played with joy, and we played with this bravado that was, I don't think cocky, it was confident. And then in the manner in which we beat them, a lot of people made us favorites against PSG. And I'm like, have you seen PSG play this season? Do you know who their manager is? He's won the treble with Barcelona. I think one of the most, if you can even say, underrated managers in football today. And so the expectation went through the roof. And I felt like Tuesday, you could feel the expectation and the pressure cooker and everything building and building, which is, I think, adding on top of what Mikel and the players are already going to endure. And you felt it in the stadium after they scored really early on. The expectation was already there, but then the bubble burst, right? Do you think the club overhyped the PSG game?
I've heard this this point or this question asked in the last couple of days, and I can see both sides, right? I hadn't thought about it until somebody flagged it. Actually, it was, I don't know if it was Sharoy. He does some content on AFTV. He did a fan cam after the game making that point. He said, Arsenal have to stop this. Whenever we get to these sorts of key games, every single game is the biggest game in the club's history. Every single game is like it's now. His words, I'm not quoting him verbatim here, but to paraphrase him, he was saying, if this was Liverpool, would they have been doing videos before? Would they have been doing all the big hoo-ha? You know, you deal with the occasion, you play the game, you win the trophy, and then you can sing from the hills. And I think it's a fair point. Arsenal do tend to have a habit of putting out a massive production or video every single time, you know, we have a game of this level. But then the counter is, well, we're not Liverpool. We're not used to being here. We're not, was it 7 times European champions? This is pretty much uncharted territory. Well, we've only been here twice before, semi-final. And in an era, and to be fair, I think Arsenal do this better than anybody else, in an era of social media, the whole pomp and ceremony and the videos and the whole, you know, woy around an occasion or a game such as just the first leg and the semi-final means that Arsenal were always going to go big on this. Now, did that bigness affect the players? Well, maybe it did. Maybe it did. Maybe it did. Maybe the players bought into the whole, this is huge. This is massive. This is like the biggest game of your lives. If you don't win this game 5-0, you're going to be battered. It's like, whoa, let the boys play. And I think Mikel Arteta's kind of speech pre-match, talking about bring your boots and all that, that only probably fed that noise of, come on, guys. But you know, I see the intention. I think was good. The intention was to make sure that every single fan came with energy, and it was ironic that in the stadium it didn't feel like that. It was the opposite, in fact. But I'm not going to blame them too hard for going big on it, because I do partially understand why. But I do think there are lessons to be learned about how we conduct ourselves in these games and getting that balance right of it's a big occasion, but actually, can we just play football and just not get overly emotional or hyped about it?
Yeah, I think the club are trying to control a bit too much, and football's organic. You know, as much as North London Forever has kind of grown on me,
it took me a while as well. It took me a while as well.
You know, it's the too much being a PR and marketer. It's like someone wrote the business plan and they've got the calendar, and of course you've got events and promos and things you need to do, but football's also organic. It's in the moment, it's in the time. And you mentioned the fans, and I wanted to touch on this with you too. I really defended our fans when I was on TalkSport and Sky, because I felt like that narrative they were trying to build, they were trying to divide us again, right? And I think being in a semi-final of a Champions League should unite fans. And you can't go from beating Real Madrid, the greatest team of all time in Europe, and then we lose 1-0 to PSG at home. Yes, you can be critical of the performance, the players, but the meltdown after it, it's like it's just been 2 weeks. Like, where is this coming from? And I feel we have a responsibility to each other, just like my family, right? If someone does wrong or whatever, or someone gets in trouble, we're going to try and rally around them, and we're going to support them as best we can. And as long as they haven't done anything that breaks the law and they need to be in prison. And I feel that our fans have been targeted, and the TIFO thing didn't help. Again, Arsenal controlling that. Jordan, talk me through this a little bit, because I know people have issue with Ashburton Army, and you know, Ashburton Army's TIFOs are a lot better than the TIFO the club came up with, and the atmosphere they create outside of the stadium. And this is organic. This is like, it's pure. It just feels right. Talk me through this a little bit.
Well, on Forever we recorded yesterday, I started the pod by it was a question. It wasn't a statement. It was a question, because Turkish, Lee and James, they were all there at the game. I wanted to kind of find out from them because I was doing a stream for AFTV, a watch along, right? And we have the audio off. But I said to them, watching it on television, it didn't look like the fans were particularly vociferous or boisterous, and that was just from visual, as opposed to we couldn't hear anything. And Lee jumped in and defended the fan base. I made it clear that I wasn't saying that the fans let the club down. I was asking the question: is it a fair accusation? And he said, "Look, I'm fed up of these people attacking our fan base. You know, what do you expect when the team concedes after 4 minutes? It goes flat." You know, pre-match it was loud. Pre-match, as you just put the picture up there, Lee was behind that Ashburton Army walk through the tunnel. He said it was absolutely insane. He said it was amazing. So he said the fans did their bit. I personally haven't, since that we did that pod yesterday, I've seen back some of the footage. I've seen the commentary and stuff, and listened to it now with the audio on. I personally think the fans could have been a little bit more vociferous in their support, but I'm also very tentative about criticizing the fans, and I wasn't there, right? And I'm also on the debate of who inspires who. Do the fans turn up to inspire the players, or is it the players' job to do something to get the fans going? I personally think it's on the players. You're paid to do a job as a professional. We've done our bit, we've turned up. How loud we shout and sing is up for debate, but we've turned up. So now it's your job to give us a reason to really get you going. Arsenal never really had the most vociferous fan base anyway. Let's have it right. They're not Leeds. They're not Fenerbahce. They're not Inter Milan. They're not Liverpool. We don't have that fan base. We've got an amazing fan base. We've got one of the best fan bases in the world. But in terms of Dortmund, from minute 1 to 95, them mofos, they could be 4-0 down or 4-0 up. They ain't sitting down. They're going for it for 95 minutes. We're not that kind of fan base. We're just not. So it's about understanding who we are. But I think I didn't actually, on your point about seeing the fan base flipping from 1 week Juventus were the greatest team around to, calling them out and blasting them off the back of yesterday's or Tuesday's result. I didn't actually see that. There were certain YouTubers and content creators and high-profile Arsenal fans who normally do lose their heads, and I don't have any time for. They flip-flop between, we're going to win the league 1 week, next week we're the worst in the world, sack everybody. And those fans, we know who they are. I don't have particularly a lot of time for. But I didn't actually see that. I didn't see a lot of Arsenal fans, calling for Mikel Arteta's head. I saw the people being critical, and all the criticism that I heard, without getting to the tactics of the match, all the criticism that I heard, I thought was pretty fair. I thought it was pretty fair, to be honest. But the fan base did their bit pre-match, and whilst I don't think the fans made it an intimidating atmosphere at the Emirates for 90 minutes, that's not who we are. I do think it's on the players to give the fans something. Let's be honest, for half an hour, PSG just shut us up. They didn't allow us to get into that game.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And yeah, I think I've always said that everyone has a free voice, right? If you have a YouTube channel, it is your prerogative to speak how you wish, as long as you're not being racist, misogynistic, homophobic, whatever it is, right? And if you like that, you go towards that direction. If you don't, I like doing one-on-one conversations. This is my jam. I mean, I was going to name names, but because people say to me, well, like, you and I, lovely, we adore Lee. He went nuts after the game, right? He went totally nuts.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I was saying organic and passion and in the moment. And he even thought that he overdid it, right? Because he did another video afterwards and stuff like that. But this is why I was defending the fans, because I think the narrative twisted, and it was about us versus about, let's look at the game, right? What happened in the game? And it totally overshadowed all of that. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about the player mentality under the spotlight, because it's a little Jekyll and Hyde. You look at the Real Madrid game and what do you mean? That was the biggest game of our lives. And we destroyed them literally over 2 legs. It wasn't even up for debate. And it's funny, I was talking to Marco Reus the other day. He was in the LA Galaxy and a press conference. And I only bring up Marco Reus because he's played at the highest level as well. And LA Galaxy won the title last season. They haven't even won a game. It's like 10 games in, haven't even won a game. And Marco Reus said something like, "We don't hate losing yet." And that really stuck with me. And I was like, I really want to ask Jordan about this, because I don't believe for a second that our players like losing. But there's a difference between not liking to lose, right, and hating that. And a lot of the times in football these days, there's too many nicey nice. You and I come from a generation where players weren't swapping shirts at halftime. They weren't smiling at each other in the tunnel. Super Kev, you've been with him on this show. He was like, we were ready to fight in the tunnel before we even got out there, right? Do we hate? I believe Mikel hates losing. I truly do.
Yeah, I agree.
And what is that, fair or foul? Or
no. I think Mikel Arteta, I think the players, I think they genuinely hate losing, and that's why getting so close and so close and so close, at some point the dial has to turn and the worm has to turn, because you can only get so close and so close for so long before one of two things happen. That pain, drives you on to next time not getting close, you win the damn thing, or you just knocking on the door, and then you regress, and then you're Tottenham, and then you're Tottenham, close for several years, but you just don't have it in you to kind of get that final step, and then before you know it, you can't knock on the door forever. At some point, other teams will overtake you. So we need to channel that pain of losing and that feeling and that hatred of losing, definitely ahead of the game next week. But just in general, I don't think that this Champions League run should mask how poor, in my opinion, the Premier League campaign's been. So, I do think Mikel Arteta hates losing. I think he's a bad loser. And I think Saka hates losing. I think Rice hates losing. I think Odegaard, right? I think Gabriel. I think they all despise losing. They hate it. But then they're the ones that can do something about it. They're the ones that have to channel that and ensure that, you know what? No, we don't want it to be remembered. We've had 2 or 3 eras, Arsenal, under Wenger, I would say, and even one under Emery, where we've had a really good teams, but not winning teams. Being a good team is one thing, good football, good players, technical, yay. Fake Barcelona. But actually, they're a good team. But that Nazari team with Nazari, Van Persie, the Nielsen, who else was in that team? I think it's early Koscielny. That was a really good team, but they were never going to win anything. They were lovely to watch, but they were never going to bend. No, they were never going to win anything. And we've just got to be careful we don't become that again. Another team that's really, really, really good, really great goals, goal of the season, got team of the year, yeah. But they win. They have to make sure they don't become that.
I mean, I think we broke that. I think the FA Cups have masked some pain and put Band-Aids on bigger problems, right? Because we hadn't been, and the finishing fourth, that kind of became a narrative in itself, and one that people threw darts at us with. But this competitiveness I've not seen, in years and years and years and years. It's a different bite. I don't think it's undeniable. Even as an early doubter, I then became an adopter because it's undeniable what you're seeing. You can't compare this Arsenal to the Arsenals of the past. And so, let me ask you this, because when you look at kind of where we're at right now, here's what I fear, Jordan. I fear, and I'm not putting negative energy out there. You guys know I love to play the what if game. I fear if we don't make the final, right? I think not making the final will be worse than losing the final. If I was Stradamus and I was looking into the future, right? And I wonder, Mikel's stock with the club is not going to change. He's their guy, right? They are totally invested in him. What scares me is what it will do to the fan base again, and how they will take this as, of course you fail if you don't win something, but it's the manner in which you fail, right? You got to look at all of the exterior. When I do the SWOT analysis, the threats, those are the things outside of your control, like the injuries, the red cards, refereeing decisions, VAR. Yes, you can control your mindset in the game. What do you think this means for, if you're looking into your crystal football, what do you think this Arsenal ecosystem looks like if we don't win in Paris?
I think for many, it will be a meltdown. We know for some of our fan base, it will be seen as abject failure. Cool. If depends on your metric of what you think success is. If your metric for success is just binary as trophies or not, then yeah, technically you failed. There'll be some that will, I think, have a wider perspective of, okay, it's incremental progress in Europe. It's a backward step in the league. There'll be some that I think are balanced that will feel like he's running out of opportunities to prove he's the guy that can do it. Not to say that he should be fired if he loses next Wednesday. Excuse me, a bit windy pops there. Sorry. Sorry. I was trying to talk whilst like not burping on your lovely podcast.
Better than fart darts.
Oh yeah, no. I'm a gentleman. We don't do farts. And I think different pockets of the fan base will take it in different ways. I think for me personally, I think it depends. If we don't win on Wednesday, I think it depends on how we don't win. That's always relevant to me. If you go out 1-0, but you gave everything, and 2-0 on aggregate, the PSG are a very good team. They could win the thing. There's no shame in that. If we go out like Spurs went out to Liverpool in the Carabao Cup a couple of months back, where Spurs had the lead. They were 1-0 up, and they still were pathetic in the second leg. If we don't show up in that second leg, I think there'll be questions about Mikel Arteta and in terms of, what is the progress. I think his cup record is what is really concerning. His cup record is awful. It's really, really bad. And I think, as you said, if you got to a final and lost, I think that masks quite a lot. You know, I think that mark will be gutted if we got to the final and lost, of course. But I think final would be a massive indicator of progress.
Yeah.
For him. So go on.
I did a show, recycling my little thumbnails here, but what this means to me, I actually think that the lessons learned on Tuesday night will be so invaluable. Having Thomas Partey back is going to be massive, right? I think he's very good at building a siege mentality. Yes, we failed in the spotlight at the very end, but when he has that George Graham, the world's against us, and he's good at picking up, making this team believe they could beat Real Madrid. Who did that? The players did that. Mikel did that, right? So I believe because of that blueprint from Real Madrid, that they go into Paris under less pressure. The pressure now shifts to Luis Enrique and his team because, let's be honest, we've seen PSG meltdown in Europe as well, Jordan, right?
Yeah. I mentioned that on Forever. I said, listen, people are talking about this Paris team. It's a new Paris team. I accept it's a new iteration of Paris Saint-Germain. Fine. They've gone away from the Galacticos. They've gone away from the superstars. They've gone away from the individual talent to form a team. And it's a effing very good team. But it's still Paris. And we've seen not just one. There's been 2 or 3 collapses from this club. So my thing going to this game, so if he was going to be, I don't think you can win this game on talent because they can match us there, arguably have more than us. I don't think you win this game on tactics because they've got a better tactician in their dugout, in my opinion, than we do. This is about heart. This game is about who wants it because we are the 2 biggest underachievers in European football. Let's have it right. Paris Saint-Germain and Arsenal are the 2 biggest underachievers in Europe. And the claim against us both has been, always had good players, good teams, good managers, won titles in their countries, good teams. But when it gets to that top table, they ain't got it. So now I'm looking at Arsenal and saying, you know what? You can't really beat them for talent. You might have to beat them for tactics, but can you push on their heart and see how much they've really got? Things are going well in Europe for them right about now, but let's see how it goes when they go 1-0 down. Let's see how it goes if they go 2. Let's when we rally on them, let's really push them. Let's really test them and see, are they really this good team, or is it's a new iteration of Paris Saint-Germain, but actually it's the same Paris Saint-Germain, just with a new car bonnet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, you use the word there a few times, pressure. I tend to find Arsenal are better when the pressure is off, right? I think we beat Real Madrid, one, because we're a very good team, but I think there was no pressure on us.
Yeah.
The pressure was all on Real Madrid. And I think we're very good, rightly or wrongly, we're very good when the expectation is that we're going to lose. That's when we step up. The pressure was on us for Paris because people were like, okay, you beat Real Madrid. You're going to beat Paris. And obviously it's Real Madrid. You beat them. So you can beat Paris. And we just froze. We froze. So now the pressure, as you rightly say, is back on Paris because they've got the lead and they're at home. So they're expected to go through. I'm not being biased. You know me. I've been on your pod enough times. I'm not a deluded fan. I will call out Arsenal. I will predict an Arsenal defeat. I'm honest as they come when it comes to Arsenal. I don't talk about Arsenal for emotion. I do it with my brain, not my heart. Sometimes wrong for that. But I genuinely feel Arsenal win this game on Wednesday because I think when the chips are when there's no real heat on us, I think we rise. And I think Paris have got a history of collapsing, big collapses as well. So I think we can just push on the heart. Just push on the heart a little bit. So, what are you really saying, Paris? All this fancy wingers and this tiki-taka and this pinging it about. But when it really gets on top and we start being aggressive and flinging balls into the box from corners and we start pressing you properly, do you really want it?
Yeah.
Where we win or lose this match.
I love that. We should play that. We should send this to Arsenal so they could play that before the game. It's like a heavyweight fight, right? The boxer with the glass chin, you have to prove that you can get hit. We need to hit them early with an uppercut, the same way they hit us at the Emirates, and I think we can do that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Sorry to cut you there. Apologies.
No.
I was at the Eubank Ben fight on the weekend, right? I'm not a massive boxing fan, but in terms of boxing excellence and skill, there wasn't a lot. But the reason why that fight was particularly amazing and enthralling was because both fighters refused to go down. Eubank and Ben were saying, I'm not going down. Yeah, I'm mash up. I'm knackered. I bust, lip fat, can't open this eye again. I'm not going down. Heart. That's not talent. That's not tactics. I'm just not going down. I'm not. We can be here all 15, 25, 100 rounds. I'm not going down. I need my team to do the same thing. Yeah, you might be better than us. You might have a better coach, but you can't out-heart us. So I think your boxing reference there is so appropriate and apt, because we saw an example on the weekend of when two fighters, you know, their level in terms of ability, in my opinion, you know, tactics were out the window. That was about heart. Who wants this more? Who's prepared to take hits in the face and still stand on their feet? That's got to be Arsenal this Wednesday. It's got to be Arsenal.
Yeah, I completely concur. And you go across the team and you look at, you know, Saliba, underrated in terms of that heart. If you just focus on Saliba's post-goal celebrations, that dude, you feel like his heart is going to burst. Martinelli, right? You can criticize him on-off form. I think he's been one of our better players lately. That dude will run until his heart bursts, right? You have Declan Rice, enough said. Saka, born with, I don't know what kind of heart, but very, very special. Trossard he's a dirty little grinder, that one. You know, Mikel Merino, I think it's spread across the team. Urian Timber, fighter, like look at, they've suffered injuries and stuff like that. And Mikel Arteta, he has a bone to pick with the football world. This dude wants this so bad. You can feel it. And I was surprised that Mikel succumbed to doing that video. I don't know if he really wanted to do that video. And I got sucked in because I never post shit before the game. And I was saying to Tony, I'm like, I bloody knew it. Why did I do that? It's not the reason why we lost. But Mikel wants this so bad, Jordan.
He does. And I get it. I saw how angry he was at the end of the last home game of last season when the title had gone. He was gutted. He was so gutted, and I want that. I want him to be angry. I want him to be like, I want him to hurt. The problem is that he's running out of time. He's 5-6 years in now. I don't know how many opportunities how many years he's gonna get, because you can only knock on the door for so many times before it's like, you won't find a bigger supporter of Gareth Southgate than I am. But by the end, it just became clear you're not the guy, bro.
It wasn't a closer.
It wasn't a closer. You got us to a certain level, and that is to be respected and acknowledged in of itself, right? England were a laughing stock. They were a laughing stock even by English people. Forget the rest of the world. By the English, they were laughing. He made them a respectable, credible last two nation at major tournaments. But get in there, and then the next step is, but can you get over the line? That only certain managers have that, and they're the managers that we know. Your Mourinho's, your Pep Guardiola's, your Alex Ferguson's, your Ancelotti's. These are the guys that have something that they know in that 90 minutes, I'm getting the job done. And I just fear that.
But Jordan, they had to start somewhere too, right? Once you get one, okay. The FA Cup, for me, I love the FA Cup. I know you love the FA Cup as well. But we're talking, he's going to be judged on a Premier League, or he's going to be judged on Champions League. But I mean, I know people don't like us pointing to Klopp and what it took to win at Liverpool and stuff like that. Once he gets one, that puts him in a different bracket. Of course it does. Yeah. And he can go on to do a lot more. Let me just switch gears, because I did say do you have a few more minutes before the football starts? Okay. All right. Stick with us here, guys. I mentioned a lot of Warriors, right? And I'm going to get to two players in particular in a second, but there's a lot going off in the chat right now about Odegaard, who's really become a polarizing figure this year. Now, some rumors that he's become vegan. I mean, we've seen super mega athletes be vegan and win like titles. I don't buy into that. All right. But I mean, I'm Greek, so I like meat, and I think you need a little meat in your life. He's come back from an injury. We don't know if he's still injured. The dad thing, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear the dad thing, because there are a lot of footballers who become dads and go on to play amazing. Maybe it affects him differently. Maybe he's under pressure. We don't know what's going on at home, all of that jazz. The point is when he crosses the white line, as Kev used to say, the proof is in the pudding. I am an Odegaard disciple. I have been since the very beginning. Jordan, talk me through this.
I think Martin Odegaard, first of all, is one of the most talented players in European football. I had no issue with him being our captain. He's not had a good season. I think one thing, and I've been very hard on the flirter, aka Martinelli, this year as well. But one thing, like the flirter, you can never criticize Odegaard for is work rate and output in terms of the commitment to doing their job in sense of commitment to the team. But his output, the talk around Odegaard has been, should he still be the captain of Arsenal Football Club? I personally don't really care about the captaincy because, I think in a game like football, the captain, especially nowadays, has a lesser role anyway. It's not like it's cricket. Some sports, the captain has an integral role in how the team performs and is set up. That's not the case in football. But the other reason why I don't really care about the captaincy so much is because I remember seeing an interview with Gary Neville years ago where he was speaking about the Euro 96 England squad that he was in. And he spoke about the fact that, he looked on the dressing room and he had like 5 or 6 club captains around him. He had Paul Ince, he had Stuart Pearce, he had Tony Adams, he had Alan Shearer, he had David Seaman, I think, was our vice captain. He had like leaders in that team. So I mentioned that point just to make the point that I don't think it really cares who's got the armband. I think.
Well, you also grew up around Brian Robson, right? Let's not.
Brian, there you go. But my point is that I don't think it really matters who has the armband, Sophie, because Rice acts like a captain, Gabriel acts like a captain, Saka acts like a captain. So you've got on the pitch 3 or 4 captains anyway. So the captaincy thing for me is less of an issue. What is a big issue for me with Odegaard? People talk about his lack of chance creation this season. I think there's a stat around Edison. He's got more assists in the Premier League than Odegaard. I might have to double check that. Fact check me on that one. But
the squaddies will fact check you right now. Edison, Manchester City's goalkeeper. Are you talking about?
Yeah, I might be a joke. He's got like 2 goals in the Prem and like a very few amount of assists. My point is, people are judging him on his creativity, which I get. He's playing in the 10 role kind of. My issue, Sophie, is forget for a second the lack of creativity. His basics are poor. His 8 to 10 yard passes, he gives the ball away so much, hanging on to the ball a second or two too long. His free kicks are atrocious. His decision making at times is embarrassing. It's so bad. So forget the captaincy thing for a second. Even forget the chance creation thing. I'm just talking about his basics. His on the ball, his bare basics are really
this season.
poor.
You're talking about this season.
This year.
Okay.
This year. Yeah. Sorry. Right. This year. That's the bigger concern for me. And it's brutal. But for me, if we don't win the Champions League this season, in fact, even if we do win the Champions League this season, there are 2 positions I think we need to level up in. Not necessarily sell these players, but on the left wing and in the 10, I think those guys have taken us to this level. But there are 2 players I think we've got to look at upgrading on. I'm really sorry. Saka, that's a Premier League winning right winger, and up top. Sorry, and up top, 3 positions, 10 wide and up top. Saliba, Gabriel, I'm happy with that. Timber, Weri Skelly, I'm happy with that. David Raya, Declan Rice, I'm happy with that. The 10, the forward role and the left, they're 3 areas we need to level up on. It's harsh because he's a brilliant player, but I'm starting for the first time to think to myself, you're a brilliant player, but are you the guy? Are you a guy that can, in the big moments, in a Premier League title run-in, are you the guy that can do the thing that gets us over the line? And I'm starting to wonder. I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule, Sophie. There are exceptions, of course. But I go back to thinking, Real Madrid don't get many things wrong. They don't get many things wrong. If they're letting you go, I'm just saying, top player. But is he the guy? Is he the? Do you know what I mean? So I'll say all that.
A lot of Madridistas would say to you that right now with Luka Modric, phasing out and the way they've been this season, a lot of Madridistas, especially the way Odegaard has played the last 2 years, they were screaming from the rooftops that they sold him down the river and that we got an absolute bargain, which we did.
Okay.
I hear Arsenal fans calling for Mikel Arteta to bench him in Paris. That's never going to happen, everyone. Just stop that.
Do you think it should?
No.
Okay.
I do not. Because I think he's earned the right, even in a high-level game like this, okay? He's such a special player with unique talents that he's earned the right to start the game. And if it doesn't go well, Mikel Arteta needs to show his balls at half-time because he's earned 15 million to make big decisions and change things and have a plan B and not just be a sub-for-sub guy. I want to see more from him as well. I thought that he lacked in-game management against PSG. Mm-hmm. And Demsek said it perfectly in the chat. There's no Kai Havertz now, so Odegaard's the new scapegoat, right? And we've seen Odegaard lead. Who was the one that led Kai Havertz into confidence? It was Odegaard. Who took him under his wing to make him feel comfortable? Who gave him the penalty? There's a lot of things, right? Who defers to, some people say, well, he should have taken the penalty, not Saka. If he'd have taken the penalty, you missed. Like, he does lead. I don't want to hear all this stuff because Declan Rice as well has this old school Tony Adams vibe about him. He's English as well. Mm-hmm. Declan Rice needs to earn the right to be captain of Arsenal Football Club. And he hasn't earned the right yet. Maybe at the end of the season he will, Jordan. Go on.
Sorry to cut you there. But I agree with most of that. I don't have an issue particularly with his leadership. I don't have an issue with that at all. But I don't think actions that you demonstrated a year ago warrant you being in the semi-final of the Champions League. I wouldn't drop him for the semi-final, but only because there's no one to come in for him. If we had anybody else I thought could do the job in that role, I would drop him.
If Emile Smith-Rowe was still here, would you start Emile Smith-Rowe over Odegaard?
Maybe, but I wasn't actually that upset that Emile Smith-Rowe left. I think there are levels, and I think Emile Smith-Rowe is a talented player, but I don't think Emile Smith-Rowe was a level. But if he was in the squad right now, I possibly would. I don't think loyalty can keep you. He's not been poor now for 5 or 10 games, Sophie. He's been poor all season.
I understand this, but in the biggest game of our lives, listen, he's not going to start Ethan Nwaneri. Okay, no. He wouldn't even start Ethan Nwaneri before Raheem Sterling. People, so
I don't think he should.
Right. So I know that he's been poor, and it's not me just defending him, saying he's a captain, whatever. This type of talent, okay, could change things in a game, and all I'm saying is give him the game to start. He deserves that. The other thing too is that, with Martin Odegaard, when you look at the season, right, there's been times he hasn't had Havertz, he hasn't had Saka, the overlap with Benjamin White. I know Timber's been great on the right. Thomas Partey was a huge miss against PSG. There's more to it than just all of that. I get it. He's out of form. Why is it a goal scorer gets the opportunity when people say he's got to play into form, he's got to keep playing him, he's got to get a goal, I just feel that there's like Declan Rice was at fault for the Dembele goal. Mm-hmm. No one's ragging on Declan Rice because he scores 2 banger free kicks. I get it. But he was at fault for that goal. He lost his runner, Jordan. Yeah, and he's not getting killed. But Odegaard is the scapegoat. Why do we do this?
Well, I think it's that thing of, as you alluded to, I think Rice might have credit in the bank in the last couple of games, whereas Odegaard is another not great performance in a long line of not great performances. And maybe people put a lot more emphasis on him because he is the captain. So even when you're playing poor, people expect you to still find a way to get everybody else over the line. Because
I agree with that. That's fair.
Tony Adams had poor games, but his captaincy, his leadership made sure that, all right, I'm not playing well today, but I'm going to damn make sure that everybody else is taken care of and we get over the line, sort of thing. So I think that's maybe why Odegaard's getting, a tougher ride. Like I said, I think he's one of the most gifted players around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're using him right as well, personally. I think he's playing the 8, 10, and 6. At times he's playing as a 10. Sometimes he's playing as the box to box. He's back and forward. Other times he's getting the ball from, deep from Saliba and Gabriel as a 6. So I'm not sure the system is helping him, but I do think if there was a player in that squad that could play a 10, I think I wouldn't be upset if he was dropped. It's a big game.
He needs competition. He needs competition, and he needs
definitely.
Yeah. And also, Jordan, the other thing too, I'll get you out on these couple bits here, with regards to with Odegaard as well, is the same thing when Martinelli was totally out of form at the start of the season. I was having a conversation with David Hillier about this too, and I was saying Martinelli is doing exactly what the manager wants him to do, and I did this show and I wanted to ask you, because I think the popcorn player is being phased out of football, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think Eden Hazard is the Eden Hazard that we knew if he was playing at Chelsea now. Mm-hmm. And we've seen our creative players kind of be suffocated through this lens of Mikel's possession obsession, but also winning duels and playing off the ball. Hamstring injuries are indicative of that. I'm not saying he's to blame for it, but I do believe it contributes to it.
Agree.
The reason why he keeps playing Odegaard is because of everything he does off the ball. And I feel like in his head, he's afraid, right? They're afraid. Maresca said, if players don't do what I say, they'll get subbed or they won't play. Mm-hmm. You've got to play the Mikel way. And I think that stifled him. I thought it was stifling Kai Havertz before the injury, and Bukayo Saka and Martinelli as well. Fair or foul?
I think that's fair. I think that is fair. I think it's something, it's maybe too late this season to kind of change your style of play and how you set the team up. But I think it's something for next season for sure, or in pre-season, he has to look at, there are benefits to system football, right? There are definite benefits to playing system football, but there are downsides too. And I think if you're going to have system football, you need system footballers. And I'm not so sure Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka are system footballers at their best. So I think it's something that he has to look at himself at and decide, you know what am I doing that might be killing this team or holding this team back? He might feel I've got this team to second. Fine. So I'm doing something right, which he is. But what is not getting them over the line? What is the thing that's not letting Saka? Because people chat about Lamine Yamal last night and how good he was, and that goal that he scored was absolutely insane. Saka can score that. Saka can do that, but he will never do that at Arsenal because the system doesn't allow him to do that. But in terms of just raw ability, beating two players and then curling it, Saka can do that. He can do that, but he's not allowed to do it. He's not allowed to do it.
Exactly, Jordan. Exactly.
And for all the heat that I give Martinelli, because I think he's been really poor now for 18 months, for all the heat I give him, because I do expect more from him, I also acknowledge that, as you just said, he's doing what the manager tells him to do. The Martinelli we're seeing right now isn't the Martinelli we saw 3 seasons ago when he was young and poor. That's not the same player. This is a guy that's been systematically institutionalized into an Arteta system. And that means defensively, you get so much benefits from what he offers, doubling up with whether it's Weri Skelly, Calafiore, Tierney, whoever it may be. That's left side defensively is very hard to get through. But it means you lose something offensively. Do you know what I mean? And that for me is what he needs to take a long look at.
Well, look, I totally agree. And that's why I wanted to kind of mention it in terms of you got to also look at what is the manager asking the players to do and how does that affect them. I'm going to end on this one for you because we haven't really spoken about him and there's 2 of them. But I was so desperate I kept saying in my WhatsApp groups, I was telling my cousin George, put a bet on Weri to come on 20 minutes to go, he's going to score a banger. And I was like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And his reluctance to take a risk and make a change, and then bringing him on with 2 minutes and not playing him in the Premier League and starting with Raheem Sterling. And then the opposite, no one had on their bingo card that Miles Lewis-Skelly would be so elevated and so far ahead of Weri this season, but he is. And my goodness, what a player. I wanted to get you out on your thoughts on Weri and also the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly and what a player he is and is going to continue to be.
So we've got two amazing talents on our hands here who will go on to have really good careers. I have said on early season podcasts that when Nwaneri was getting more, because he came in before Lewis-Skelly, and everyone was raving about Nwaneri, and I was like, okay, this guy's got talent. I didn't quite think he was as good as everybody else made him out to be, and I'm still a fan of his, without being like, he's not in the wonder kid bracket, in my opinion. He's a very good young talent that I think will have a very good career at Arsenal. Lewis-Skelly, I think, is in the wonder kid bracket. I've always felt Lewis-Skelly's ceiling was higher. I've always felt his ceiling was a little bit higher. The kid's just a problem. He's a problem. And he's the only player, he's the only player that I thought came out, maybe Kivior, that came out of any credit from Tuesday's game. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was so good on that stage. I guess one of the best wingers in world football, but he didn't shy, he didn't bottle it, he didn't freeze, and he also still didn't give up his attacking impetus. The first two big cheers the audience did give, well, where I was in the stream, were both Lewis-Skelly. I think it was a tackle and it was a run. They were the first two moments where I was. The crowd genuinely were like up. I think Nwaneri is a top talent. I don't think he's a number 10. Not yet anywhere. I know most people think he's a 10. I think he's better wide. I just think he can beat a man and he's got a good delivery. He can go in or outside. So I personally would see him as the Saka backup as opposed to the Odegaard backup. Lewis-Skelly, I mean, the left-back spot is his. I know people are saying, oh, should we put him in midfield because that's where he played when he was in Hayland and he was a youth team player. Yeah, maybe. But I think he's playing that well at left-back. Comes into midfield anyway. I would leave him there personally. But no, we've got two young kids. And what I love about the two of those players in particular as well is that they're both very, very confident young men, but in opposing ways. So you have Nwaneri, who's more like, I know that I'm good, but I'm not going to shout about it. I'm not going to, there's no celebration. There's no swagger. I'm just going to just do my thing. You know I can beat you. I know I can beat you one-on-one. Just let me beat you and score a goal. Like, I love that confidence. And then you have Lewis-Skelly. Lewis-Skelly's like, you know what? I know I'm better than you. You know I'm better than you. But I'm going to still tell you I'm better than you. And I'm going to rub it in your face. And I love that. And the press and large parts of the media and other fan base are losing their heads. Who does this guy think he is? I'm like, Lewis, you do your thing. Do your thing, brother. Because you know what? They're going to bring you down regardless. So you might as well push out your chest and say, yo, I am the guy. I love that. All this, he can't push out his chest because he's not won anything yet. Get out of here, man. The kid's enjoying his time. He's living the dream. What do you mean? This year, there was no plan for him to be in the squad, Sophie.
Yeah.
Sub debut, first team Premier League debut, sub Champions League debut, Champions League starting debut, England debut goal, Champions League quarterfinal against Real Madrid, semi-final against Paris Saint-Germain. Are you mad? This kid is a problem, and I love them both. I think Lewis-Skelly's got a slightly higher ceiling than Nwaneri, but Nwaneri is a very, very talented boy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we do with them. Just quickly on Nwaneri, how we manage him is really important. Now Saka's back. I've not loved how Arteta has managed him. It's kind of like just dropped him again, and he might feel, look, he's still a young boy, still got a boy's body. Let's not overwork him. Fine. But you can still bring him on, as you alluded to. He should have come on earlier in that game against Paris. Again, on the weekend, you're playing Sterling. You're playing Sterling before Nwaneri. What's going on there? So we need to manage him better and make him feel like, all right, Saka's back. Saka's the guy. Odegaard's the captain. He's starting, but there's still a role for you. So don't get too demoralized. Get back into the training. Do your thing, because next season there'll be a big role for you. Before we go, can I just quickly mention a couple of podcasts to your fantastic viewers and listeners?
Yeah. I have one more for you then.
Oh,
okay.
sorry. I'm jumping the gun.
No,
Sorry.
because I just thought of it as we were going to exit, and you can tell me, and then share absolutely everything. You know, a lot of squaddies say he doesn't trust Weri defending yet, which really underlines my point about these players have to do exactly what Mikel says. They don't have the same freedom as they did in the past. Right. We're going to get you out. You're going to let us know what's going on. And there's a big game tonight, 2 big games, which we hope both teams lose. My greatest fear is that Man United and Tottenham get to the Europa League final. One of them ends up winning a trophy. And in my deepest, darkest fears and nightmares is that, you know, I know we're going to make it. But again, the what if game, that narrative I don't want. That's the one I can't take. I don't even want to say it out loud. So why don't you just tell us what you got going on?
Yeah, you scared me now, Sophie. You scared me. I'm the opposite. I want them both out of semi-finals. They don't deserve anything. I think they'll both make the final, but I want them both out. No. I want a big defeat tonight for both those clubs. We've got some amazing American Arsenal viewers on Forever. So I want to just big up all the American Arsenal fans. Trust me, I'm not there, but we know you guys love this football team. We know you guys can't be there in person, but trust me, we go through all the comments and globally, but because your audience primarily is American, we really want you guys to know that on the Forever team, we see you and we love you. Second one, and Whisper It Loudly. I do a podcast with the great Darren Lewis and Hugh Wozencroft of TalkSport, Daily Mirror, CNN, and a million other titles and outlets. It's a sports society podcast that we call it. So we discuss like 50% is football, the other half is politics, current affairs, culture, and a bit of foolishness as well. Check it out, Whisper It Loudly. It's on all feeds. On Acast and also on YouTube. Go check it out. And then finally, I've started up a new podcast that's non-sport related. It's called Jarrett-Bryan's The World's Coolest Disabled. It's a podcast where I invite people on who have done amazingly interesting things, who just happen to have a disability. There's no content for disabled people. Well, there's very little. Maybe in America there is some. There is some in America. But here in the UK, there's so little. And I want to give them a voice. So we are 5 episodes in. We are growing. I would love your community to check it out and have a listen. We have some really funny discussions around day-to-day livings and their achievements, but also some quite deep and pertinent ones as well. If you're not disabled yourself, everyone will know someone, whether it's your mum, your son, your daughter, your gran, your work colleague, your best friend, who does have a disability. So hopefully there'll be something for you guys as well. Jarrett-Bryan's The World's Coolest Disabled. It's handled at Coolest Disabled. So go check it out. All the socials, YouTube as well, all the Acast outlets and platforms. But back to Arsenal. I think we will win next week. I think we definitely can win next week. We just got to approach it with the right mindset. Don't try and win the game and lose it at the same time.
If you send me WhatsApp me the links, I'll put the podcast stuff all in the description of the show, and I'll share it when we share the show as well. And on our YouTube comments, let Jordan know what you think, and please go follow his great work. And you're doing really good things, Jordan. I love how kind of you're an all-rounder. You're able to. I could put you in the room, with the Prime Minister, or we could take you. Hang out with Lee Judges. But what you're doing for the disabled community, and I love your work on the Paralympics as well. So we're really proud of you, and thank you so much. The squaddies have loved you tonight. Squaddies, for having me. Let's go watch 2 teams lose, hopefully, not gracefully. Come on, Arsenal, and keep believing. Squads Central out. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.